Pete Hegseth was asked a straight yes or no question. Does the Pentagon have plans to invade Greenland? Mike Turner handed him the perfect out, literally gave him the chance to just say no. Pete Hegseth refused to take it.
The Secretary General of NATO has recently made statements of his concern of Russia's future attempt to place an anti-satellite nuclear weapon into space. Specifically, he has said, "We are aware of reports that Russia is examining the possibility of placing nuclear weapons in space. This is very worrying. Space is also very important for our deterrence and defense, just as important as land, sea, air, and cyberspace. In recent years, space has become increasingly clouded, dangerous, and unpredictable. We know that competition in space is fierce." I recently had the opportunity to speak to him. He was at Wright-Patterson Air Force Base in my community as we were commemorating the 30th anniversary of the Peace Accords. His concern was that this is not getting worldwide enough of attention. We had General Saltzman recently in front of the committee. He has characterized that if Russia were to place an anti-satellite nuclear weapon into space, that would be day zero, that if that was put in space, that next day, that it would be irresponsible for us to count on space, that we would have to spend trillions of dollars and seek technology that we don't have to find solutions as an alternative to space, both commercially, for military, in really to redo what is really society today. As you know, it would affect both our nuclear deterrence, our efforts for missile defense, even our investments in Golden Dome. In this venue, obviously, we can't discuss all of the details of what we're doing, but I would ask if you would please confirm that this is a threat that is a priority to the Department of Defense, as it has been characterized by the Secretary General of NATO, and acknowledge that as it is a priority for us to prevent the deployment of nuclear weapons in space, and that it is a priority for us to work with our allies to uphold our commitment to the Outer Space Nuclear Treaty that prohibits the deployment of nuclear weapons in space. Sir.
Well, thank you for the question, sir. As you alluded to, there are a number of aspects to this question or answer that can't be discussed here, but I would underline our complete commitment to the space domain, to the hardening of the space domain, to prevention of escalations in the space domain, but most importantly, to the dominance of the space domain. I mean, it is the future of how we see, it's the future of how we sense, it could be the future of how our adversaries fight and how we deal with that. So I think President Trump, yet again, was ahead of the curve when he created the Space Force in his first administration. People said we didn't need it. We are relying on it every single day now to ensure, alongside the Space Force and private enterprise, that we're delivering the capabilities we need that are resilient, that are redundant, that are capable of all aspects of all domain warfare, if necessary. And preventing adversaries from gaining an advantage is a huge part of how we look at space.
This threat is not classified. Russia's threat of deploying an an anti-satellite nuclear weapon in space is not classified. Obviously, this is a priority to the Department of Defense, and I just want your confirmation that this is a priority that you're tracking, and you too see that as a threat to the United States, and certainly to the United States and our space infrastructure, and certainly our whole national security infrastructure.
We track all potential escalations, yes, sir.
And lawyer here, I just want to help you out because people try to twist your words. You are not confirming in your testimony today that at the Pentagon there are plans for invading or taking by force Greenland, correct? That is not your testimony today.
All my testimony is that the Pentagon has plans for any number of contingencies.
It is not your testimony today that there are plans at the Pentagon for taking by force or invading Greenland, correct? Because I'm sure as hell hope that it is not your testimony.
We look forward to working with Greenland to ensure that it is secured from any potential threats.
Excellent.
What makes this moment so damn striking isn't what got said. It's what was deliberately left unsaid. You might think this is just another Washington word game dodge. But there's a much darker lesson here about how national security power actually operates and why strategic ambiguity is sometimes treated as a feature, not a bug. Mike Turner opens from a place of trust. He praises investments in deterrence, missile defense, space, signaling this isn't a gotcha ambush. Then he lays out a real, widely acknowledged threat. NATO warnings that Russia is exploring nuclear anti-satellite weapons. That scenario isn't hypothetical. Space underpins everything: GPS, comms, missile warning, banking, logistics. Military leaders have called a nuclear detonation up their day zero because it would force entire societies to rebuild critical systems overnight at staggering cost. When Pete Hegseth responds, he uses all the right-sounding words: dominance, resilience, redundancy, tracking, escalations. It's polished. It's competent. But it's also carefully non-specific. Turner presses for confirmation that preventing nuclear weapons in space and honoring the treaty framework that bans them is actually a priority. The answer never quite lands. We track all potential escalations is not the same as we will prevent this. Then Turner pivots to something the public has only heard whispers about: Greenland. He does something unusual and fair. He gives Hegseth a clean escape hatch. As a lawyer, Turner frames it precisely, even helpfully, asking him to confirm plainly that the Pentagon does not have plans to invade or seize Greenland by force. That should have been the easiest answer in Washington. One word: no. Hegseth doesn't give it. Instead, he speaks in generalities about contingency planning and working with Greenland to secure it. Turner immediately repeats the question, tightens it further, almost pleading for clarity. Again, no denial. That silence is deafening. In national security, ambiguity is rarely accidental. Officials are trained to avoid closing doors. Explicit denials can box leaders in, contradict political rhetoric, limit future leverage. But that kind of strategic ambiguity comes with real costs. Greenland is part of the Kingdom of Denmark, a NATO ally. Even the suggestion that force isn't being ruled out can rattle allies, feed adversary propaganda, erode trust, all without a single troop ever moving. Contingency planning itself isn't sinister. The Pentagon plans for earthquakes, cyber attacks, scenarios that will never happen. That's their job. The issue is transparency. When an official refuses to rule out something that would fundamentally destabilize alliances, it raises serious questions about priorities and judgment, not because invasion is imminent, but because clarity was offered and deliberately declined. This moment also shows what real oversight looks like when it's done right. Turner didn't accuse, he didn't grandstand. He asked a precise, on-the-record question and gave the witness every chance to answer cleanly. The fact that the answer never came is the story. National security isn't just hardware and budgets. It's trust, signaling, and the confidence allies place in U.S. leadership. Words and silences shape that confidence. When leaders won't say no to reckless ideas, even hypothetically, it leaves everyone else to fill in the blanks. And in geopolitics, blanks get filled with the worst possible assumptions. That's why this exchange should worry you. Not because of invasion rumors, but because when the Secretary of Defense won't rule out force against a NATO ally, even as a hypothetical, the signal being sent is far louder than any memo. If this kind of deliberate ambiguity unsettles you, it should, because trust in alliances isn't automatic. It's earned, and it can be lost in a single sentence that was never spoken.